The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Good afternoon, everybody. What's going on? Eric Frandsen, Ajay, Salvesen. Hope you're having a good Wednesday. Couple different things happening today. Boy, big news day. Big Ten decision is official. There is all kinds of confusion in California about what's going on in the Pac-12. It is so confusing as the day goes on. It doesn't get even any closer to being any clearer. John Wilner's got a great job of trying to make sense of it, and he's doing his best, and it doesn't make sense. So we've got that we're going to cover. The NCAA Division I Council expected to have an official decision today. That official decision has not yet been released, but there are sources that are giving us some indications of what's going to happen.
So they've just announced it.
Oh, did they? Just barely?
Yeah, according to Andy Katz, the Division I Council has announced that the start date of college basketball season will begin November 25th. The start of practice, Eric, will begin October 14th. Max number of games have been reduced by 4 to 27. Minimum number of games is 13. No scrimmages or exhibitions this year. Recommendation for minimum 4 non-conference games. And along with that, Jeff Goodman's also reporting that the council has voted that 12 hours total, Eric, 12 hours total, 8 on the court will begin September 21st. Practice will start October 14th. Again, it's been reduced to 27 games, so minus 4. Whew.
Okay.
So we need to do some research and look at the schedule and see what we miss out on. And Eric, only 4 non-conference games. So the question to you is, do you take what you get in Orlando at that Myrtle Beach tournament, or do you take 4 other non-conference games and say, let's see if we can do any better?
Utah State's not going to find a better non-conference schedule than what they'll get
Orlando in the bubble?
In the Myrtle Beach. It is a bracket. I did look it up. It is a bracket.
It is.
It's not
okay,
around
so I was wrong. I apologize.
But you are guaranteed like 3 games.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on who you line up against, I guess. But it's a pretty good field. There's a good teams participating in that. So do you do that and then BYU? Is that your non-conference?
Yeah.
If you can only have 4 non-conference games?
So 3 in Orlando and then the one at home against BYU. With no fans, though, that just is a bummer. It's... So here's the thing is I guess there's no Utah State basketball schedule out there, that was released. So we don't know what they're on. We don't know what the schedule was going to look like before November 25th.
No, the Mountain West never officially released the schedule for the upcoming year.
Which actually might have been a smart thing to do. Considering all that was going on, that might have been a really smart thing to do. Eric, so you take 3 Orlando games, and that probably includes, and hopefully would include Davidson. You might get Pitt. You might get Nebraska. That's 3... I guess 2 Power 5s and 1 high mid-major. Then you take BYU, who is a very high mid-major. I would assume will be ranked in the preseason top 25. Despite what they lose. They still have
Really? You think they would?
Dude, they're going to be good.
They have benefited from some pretty notable transfers.
Yeah, the transfer market for them has been very nice, to say the least.
Jeff Borzello on ESPN has fleshed out quite a bit more detail about the start of the season, starting November 25th, and by Thanksgiving week, 76% of all Division I schools will have either finished their fall semester completely or released the general student body for in-person instruction. That's according to NCAA Senior Vice President of Basketball Dan Gavitt on a webinar last week, and so that's why they're moving towards that date so that they can get some college basketball games in before students really come back en masse and could create potentially a second problem after they go home or the more students on campus, whatnot. But the Gavitt has also said that the NCAA is still planning for the NCAA tournament with 68 teams and 14 sites in March and April.
Good. Now the question is, Eric, will we have fans at those games? Does anything change from September now or even November this year to March of next year where we say, yeah, we can have a full arena because it will be a full arena. March Madness, 1 year absence, coming back, people want to go. Will they allow that to happen? That's a big question right there. I mean, the revenue would be amazing. Hey, so let me ask you, the 8 hours of practice or whatever that is that if I'm doing my math right and you practice for an hour and a half Monday, hour and a half Tuesday, that's 3, Thursday, Friday, that's 4. But how long do they usually practice for? 2 hours a day for college basketball? Do you know how long? I don't know.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's like an hour. So you could actually limit it to, and I say limit it to an hour and a half on court. And you're still looking at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and you hadn't even hit the 8-hour mark yet. That's going to be interesting how they have to handle that.
9315 is texted into the program. Reminder, if you want to text in with a question or a comment, 435-339-0321. And this comment from 9315 says, too bad they can't make the BYU-Utah State basketball game a Facebook game so you can get fan participation.
What am I missing here?
Well, because Facebook has, Utah State has had several football games broadcast on Facebook. And then there's a lot of fan back and forth. You can comment and trash talk each other in the comments as the game is going on. And I'm guessing that's what 9315 is alluding to here as well. I'm not aware that there were very many basketball games that were done that way. I think it was more football.
It was more football, and I think they based it not only for just viewership, but also time. So, they're going to have a game at 2 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and you still have your whole evening. And I think that's what was a big push. Yeah, that's good news. It's good to have some good news in the college athletics world because we're sitting amongst
unless you live in California.
Yeah, how about that?
Unless
Eric?
you live in California, and then if you had any hair before, you've pulled it out since.
Yeah, if you were not drinking then, you are now. This is bad all over the place, from Gavin Newsom to Larry Scott. This is just complete inaccountability and responsibility, and it's more of a he said she said thing. Did you read?
It's utter chaos.
Did you read John Wilner's article?
Yes, I have it pulled up.
Crap.
Open right now. So it started. So the Big Ten made their decision. They said, yes, we are going to go forward. We're going to play games. And so then everybody has pivoted to the Pac-12, looking at them like, okay, you're the last of the power conferences. Everybody else has figured a way to make this work. What about you guys? Are you going to make it happen? And so there's been increasing pressure as it looked more and more likely that was going to be the case with the Big Ten. And so Governor Gavin Newsom has a news conference today and says, and I quote, "There is nothing in the state guidelines that denies the Pac-12 from having conference games." And he called any reporting to the contrary a misrepresentation of the facts. So what has been going on the last couple of months in California? But it gets better. He says there's nothing in the rules that says you can't play. But then in the same statement, he says, yes, we do have rules that limit practices of anything more than 12 people. How do you practice and prepare a football team if you can't practice more than 12 people at a time?
Can we just get the 5 linemen versus the 5 offensive linemen? Just pretend there's a quarterback. All right, now let's get the quarterback and 2 receivers and get a few defenders out there. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not compatible to have a football season if you're limited like that on the practice field.
So John Wilner does a great job.
Oh,
and he's been
this is incredible.
so on this all day. So mercurynews.com, search John Wilner. It's such good stuff. So everybody's been asking, so the NFL can play in California. Major League Baseball can play in California. Major League Soccer can play in California. But there are explicit rules that say institutions of higher education cannot have anybody playing or practicing in groups of 12 people or more. So John Wilner reaches out to a state health official to say, how did you explain this? The governor says teams can play, but the rules say you can't have anything more than 12 people. And so the answer is this. Teams can find workarounds to 11-on-11 practices. They can have walkthroughs. They can practice against air. They can use virtual reality and tackle dummies.
That's so bad.
They can use mental exercises. What?
Okay, I want you to picture.
What in the world is going on in California?
Here they are, with yoga music on, sitting Indian style, whatever, legs crossed, and with hands in the air and eyes closed. Their intense defensive coordinator is shouting instructions at them about how to defend a 5-spread empty back set with 4 routes coming across. Like, what the heck?
Did anybody see what Navy looked like in week 1?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would have responded with, by the way. I would have said, so the Navy BYU game, they just didn't do enough mental exercising.
They admitted they didn't have any tackling drills.
That is horrible.
It's January.
That is so bad.
But no, here's a health official trying to pretend that they understand how sports can work. Oh, just do virtual reality and you'll be okay for game time. Don't gather in groups of 12 or more. Just, put your headset on, do some mental exercises, and you can go out there and play a game. Give them the old college try. Are you insane? So John Wilner, he follows up with this person and says, who this person did not want to be officially quoted.
I sure not want to be either.
It was probably the smartest thing they did. But John Wilner presses him and saying, look, practices during the week might be one thing, but when you have a game, you need 22 players on the field. 11 on defense, 11 on offense. And there's going to be some contact going on there. And then the official responded that teams could prepare by playing 5 against 5. Contact is allowed just within the fixed group of players.
Still not making sense to me what we're supposed to do here, sir. See, and this is why I just don't think that it's going to happen for the Mountain West. Like, I know we want to play football. Mark Ziegler, by the way, of the San Diego Tribune, Union Tribune, wrote a really good article on the Mountain West Conference solely of what's still holding them back from being able to play football. In fact, we're going to have Mark on tomorrow at 5:15 here on our show to talk about Mountain West Conference football and those obstacles that they're facing and why they're facing them and how they can, if they can break it. And right now I would say this is where Mountain West Conference is a long ways away from playing football. Because I don't think, Eric, and I think you and I kind of discussed it with another individual today, if they don't play in the fall, they're not playing in the spring. Or at least I would say it would not be wise to play in the spring.
Well, in context of the news cycle over the last 24 to 48 hours, the Big Ten announcement, suddenly there's this green light that has always been on in California for the Pac-12.
Yeah.
We've just discovered, as long as you prepare using VR and air tackling.
Jeez.
The Mountain West, notably, as you could imagine, everybody's thinking, okay, Mountain West, everybody else is getting their stuff together. They're figuring out a way to do this. They can still have games in the fall, and it won't totally screw up your calendar for the entire 2021 year. So the Mountain West releases a statement, which really isn't a statement, from Craig Thompson. Here it is. Multiple subgroups within the conference are working daily on solutions to the existing challenges in order to facilitate a return to play for Mountain West football and other conference sport programs at the earliest possible opportunity. This includes finalizing a plan for frequent rapid response testing and continuing to monitor the status of public health directives in our Mountain West states and communities. Close quote. Now, can you even tell me what he even said?
Yeah.
He basically said,
"That's hey, we still don't know what the crap we're doing, but we're not going to play football, so don't ask."
Yeah, we're still talking to each other.
Hey, we're still having Zoom meetings. Hang tight. Yeah, it's asking a lot. 9315 just texted in there. California is idiots when 30 minutes down the road from USC, they're playing football. Playing
Well, I know that was a big problem in the Big Ten with a lot of those states. Like, look, we got Little League that's playing. We have some high school that's playing. We have professional that's playing. Everyone is playing but us. And so that's why they were really frustrated and why that was such a loud chorus of complaints in the Big Ten footprint. In the Pac-12, it has been a little bit different because there are a lot of things that are shut down. But now that the NFL is going, Major League Baseball has been going, Major League Soccer has been going, and the Pac-12 made this deal so they could have rapid, regular testing. So, like, everything's pointing to the Pac-12 that suggests we should be able to play. And Governor Gavin Newsom says, "Yeah, sure you can play. There's nothing that says you can't play, except there kind of is, but there isn't." Unless there is. Look, but there isn't.
You can play with air, okay? You got imaginary people out there you're playing against.
Put on your headsets.
Now fall to the ground, pretend like you got tackled. Yeah, that's just so bad.
But just put flags, tie a little flag on your back.
Look, the Pac-12 wants to play, and I said this yesterday, Eric. The Pac-12 wants to play football. The governor's not allowing them to play, but yet the governor has just been all over the place, too, with this whole entire situation. And I think today proves why Larry Scott needs to be gone as well. I think Larry Scott's just as big of a problem as anybody else here.
I don't see this as a Larry Scott issue. I think this is a California issue because it's so hard to know what's going on in that state because the governor is saying one thing and his directives have said another. There are different communities that are some health districts and some counties that are far more restrictive, even though there are some counties in other parts of the state who have different rates of infection, but they have fewer restrictions. There are more, the rate of infection in Utah is higher right now than it is in California or Oregon.
Huh. How does Larry Scott not stay in communication with Governor Newsom to get a day-by-day, and I'm being literal here, a day-by-day report of the situation that's going on, of what we're exactly dealing with? Has things improved? Have things progressed or digressed? Or and then to have this conversation where I don't know. I just feel like Governor Newsom kind of threw it all on Larry Scott and put him underneath the bus. But Larry Scott, I don't know if I wouldn't say he didn't fire back, but hasn't really stuck up for himself in the whole situation too. As big of a mess as the Big Ten is, I think the Pac-12's in a worse situation right now.
John Wilner has an update.
Oh, good.
According to sources, after speaking to Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott, Newsom's office reached out to USC officials. The plan is to fast-track revision to controversial 12-person cohort max. That shifts focus to local health, an easier hurdle for the schools. This is big.
Okay, so explain that to me like I'm a 3-year-old.
So basically, Larry Scott and Governor Newsom had some conversations. He's seeing that there's the problem with this 12-person kind of maximum group that the state already has put in place. And they're going to get together to make some revisions to that would ease some of those restrictions and take it away from a statewide mandate to being more allowing those decisions to be made more on the local level based on the county or those health departments in various locations throughout the state. So rather than having a blanket statement for the entire state, they're going to revise that to allow different local health organizations, local counties, make some of those decisions based on the rates of infection and what's going on in their local communities.
Oh, that's kind of them.
Which, why wasn't that done months ago? Thank goodness Utah took that approach a long time ago. Because what is good for Salt Lake County is not really the same thing at all for Sevier County or Grand County or Cache County. But that's California doing what California does. Just practice 5-on-5.
Practice against the air. Have a yoga instruction of you tackling somebody.
Mental drills.
That's the what the heck's a mental? I would have honestly quizzed him. I said, "So, sir, how would you do a mental exercise in covering or throwing against a cover two with an inside linebacker on a blitz? What would you mental exercise and how would you go about it?" I'd make him just describe it to me so I know what I'm looking for. And if he gives you some bullcrap answer, I'd push for one. Well, sir, you said it could be done, so tell me how it could be done.
It's just, what in the world is going on?
Wonderful. That's great work.
Hey, some other news from the Division I Council. Division I student athletes will not practice and or compete among other countable athletically related activities on the first Tuesday after November 1st every year. What that means is the Division I athletics says you shall not practice, you shall not play, you shall not have any official activities on Election Day. We do not want to provide a distraction or something that may prohibit anyone from participating in elections. Which, you know what? I think that's great. I wish more people and more organizations took that civic duty more seriously. There's been a lot more about it this year than a lot of years, but I think that's a great move. I applaud that move.
Yeah, it kind of shows the growth and maturity, right, that we're seeing in front of our eyes. Now it's based on things going on and the way they've been happening, both, I don't know how to even say the word, morally and politically, but no, I think we're on the right track, and I'm with you. I think it's a great decision, and hopefully I'll continue to progress, and that more people will follow and fall behind this. I don't know if the regime is the correct word, but just this way of doing things. Yeah,
and you know what? I really tire of people who love to complain about the way things are in politics, but then will also admit that they've never voted. It's like
that.
You don't.
Sorry,
that's a whole
different animal. Then you don't get an opinion there, my friend. Yep.
All right. There's still a lot to get through today.
Geez, yeah.
Let's shift for just a little bit to the NBA. Coming up at 4:40, we're going to have a conversation with Dave Simmons, play-by-play announcer for the Ridgeline Riverhawks. Yesterday, we spoke to John Newbold for the Skyview perspective of this big matchup on Thursday between number 1 and number 2 in the state. And today we get the Ridgeline perspective. Also, we got the All-NBA teams, more about the Big Ten and the Pac-12 announcements, NCAA basketball, what that looks like, some crazy playoff games yesterday, a lot more to pack in today here on the Full Court Press. We'd always love to hear from you, your questions or comments, 435-339-0321 here on the Full Court Press.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Eric Frandsen, Ajay, Salvesen. Big Ten is going to go forward with a college football season. Pressure mounting on the Pac-12 to do something similar. A lot of controversy in California on what could be done to get themselves in a position to have a football season. Just strange interpretations of the rules.
Hey, so I kind of voiced my opinion about what happens with Mountain West Conference football. Where do you stand?
I think if the Power 5 schools are all playing, I don't know how the Mountain West cannot try to find a way to start playing in November. If they don't play starting play in November, I don't see how they play in the winter or the spring. Yeah. I think too many people will want to opt out. Too many coaches will be concerned about how it messes up their calendar for 21. And I think you miss an entire football season if you do that. I mean, the technology is there. How expensive is it? That's certainly a big question. Utah State has never published, how many positive cases they've had on their football team, so we don't know how widespread it's been, what they've been dealing with. But we've seen football teams have positive cases, and you know what? They have to postpone or cancel a game. That's happening, and there's going to be other cases like that will happen. We've seen it in high school football, but football is uniquely situated that you take a break, you miss a week, but by the time that next game rolls around, you've had enough time of separation and isolation that you can start to bring guys back and get ready for your next game.
So what about Hawaii? What about New Mexico? Do we just turn to the fact that, California, I think, ends up playing. I think that California gets San Jose State and Fresno State in. If USC and UCLA are playing football, I think San Jose State, Fresno State, San Jose State, those teams are given to be in to play football as well. But you're still left out with New Mexico and Hawaii, which, look, Hawaii's just too difficult, especially with the 14-day protocol quarantine period where when you get there, it's too much. And New Mexico's in a situation where their governor has told them, I don't want you out there on the field playing football. So that puts us down to what, 8 teams? 8? Well, no, more than 8. Probably around 10?
It'd be 10. There's 12 football playing schools.
I think it's good.
But I don't think the Mountain West can say, we're going to go forward except for you guys.
Why not, though?
I think a conference has to say we're all in
United.
It or we're not. Because if you get left out, I'd file a lawsuit the next day.
What are you going to say in the lawsuit? Hey, we didn't get a play.
We're part of this conference. You should delay and wait until we're ready to go.
What makes him so special?
It's an unfair competitive advantage.
How is it unfair competitive advantage?
Well, these other schools are going to go recruit. Hey, come play with us. Commit to us. We're going to play. You don't know what you're going to get if you go over there or that school, that state.
I'm not buying it. Look, again, if you're the conference, you blame your governor. You blame your local state health departments or whatever. You can't blame the Mountain West Conference and say, hey, it's your fault that we're not playing. No, it's really not, because we're playing. You're invited. You've always been invited to the party. Okay? You can either sit in your room and look through out the window, or you can go do something about it. But we're going to play.
9315, text in again. 9315, very active on the texts
Love it.
Today.
Love it. Thank you.
I think if California can officially get going, they will be the domino that makes it so those other states can play football.
Nah, I'm not buying that one, though. I wish that was the case, but it's not going to be. I think Hawaii's going to look at it and be like, good luck with that COVID rampage you're going to get. That's what Hawaii's thinking.
But it's not like here are just vacationers coming from wherever, and they don't know what they were doing before they came to the island. Hawaii can say, are you following the protocols? Are you testing regularly? They know like this group of people who's coming to the island, the things that they're doing, the protocols that they're taking, the steps that they're following before they even land. And so they know what a team is doing before they get there. And they're going to be isolated in a hotel. They're not going to go all over and spread all over the island. They're going to be in isolated locations, play their game, fly in the day before, do your walkthrough, play the game, and get out of there.
That's simple.
I think they could make it work.
Okay. I think there's a lot more questions than that. And I mean, again, the New Mexico governor is so set on them not playing. And I don't think she changes her mind just because California decides to go all in because California has the pressure all put on them of the Pac-12 conference. Remember, the pressure's not on California because Mountain West Conference. The pressure's on California for the Pac-12. They're not thinking about Mountain West Conference football. Because the money's coming from the Pac-12.
It's just, I think that if the Mountain West can't, if all the Power 5 schools or conferences, if they're going by November, and if they make decisions within this next week that they can all be going in even late October, and the Mountain West is still sitting on the sidelines, I just don't get it.
Well, I mean,
I don't know why the Mountain West can't figure it out. Because if you can get games in, you're going to have a 6-week window there with no students on campus between late November through the first part of January. You can get, that's a big chunk of your that's a majority of your football season. If you're concerned about spread, community spread, or getting it from other people.
Yeah, no, that's a good point you bring up. Again, I think there's a lot to sort out between states or teams or whatever. Okay. Sorry. There's much more to hash out, but again, but you're right. Maybe the Mountain West Conference does get their crap together.
2197 text in. So the Mountain West should sue NCAA because of competitive advantage?
Oh.
Mountain West should sue the NCAA because they don't know what they're doing.
Someone should sue Mark Is it Mark Emmert? Someone should sue that guy for just being in the position he is. Yeah. I like that answer by 2197.
One more from 9315. One good thing would be you and I have to see that old ugly stadium in California at San Diego State if they don't play.
Actually, that's not...
You're not going to see it anyway.
Yeah, so that's not true. They're actually going to play at a different stadium.
They're going to Carson, California, where the Chargers played last year. It's a Major League Soccer stadium in the L.A. suburb. So let's load on a bus every Saturday. If you're the Aztecs, head north for an hour and a half. If you have good traffic. So, yeah. No, San Diego State's already making a decision to play somewhere else this upcoming year. Whether it be this season or the 2021 season, well, continuing through 2021. So, I mean, testing, yes, it is an expense, and it is something that smaller conferences, smaller schools don't have it in the margins to do. I mean, it's already pretty scary right now with these budgets.
What if?
But if you don't figure something out, I don't see a way that the Mountain West is going to play football in the spring.
But you want to see it figured out by when? You want to see a season start by when?
I think if the Mountain West is going to get a season in, then it would need to start late October, early November, even mid-November at the latest. I think you could still make it work if you start mid-November. If you're only doing conference only, and you're playing games through December and even regular season games through the first weekend of January. Because I don't think a season will happen. I don't think games will happen unless they happen in the fall.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if you start by end of October, you got a shot. The question is do you play non-conference games or conference games with it? I think
they can only do
conference games only.
I mean, maybe they do a conference plus one, but at this point, who else are you going to play? Pac-12 has already said they're only going to do conference. All the other group of 5 conferences that are playing, they already have their schedules. So I think it's just, let's do conference only. Let's get a season in, and let's call it good. Let's not worry about non-conference and how that affects strength of schedules and bowl opportunities and all these other things. College football playoffs. Just get games in.
Yeah, get games in. Yep, I agree with you. End of October would be a great way to start.
All right, we got to step aside. Let's talk about some high school football. Big one coming up on Thursday. A big game between the number 1 team and the number 2 team in the state. Latest RPI rankings released earlier this week. Skyview, Ridgeline face each other on Thursday. We'll hear from the Ridgeline point of view. Dave Simmons will join us next. He's a play-by-play announcer for the Riverhawks on 104.5 The Ranch. He'll join us next here on the Full Court Press.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen. Big weekend in high school football. Actually gets started early on a Thursday. The game got moved up after the UHSAA first round of RPI rankings were released on Monday. Skyview number 1, Ridgeline number 2 in the state. And that game will be, those two teams face each other, and that game will be played in Millville. And yesterday we got the Skyview perspective. Today we get the Ridgeline perspective. Dave Simmons calls the play-by-play for the Riverhawks. He joins us now here in the Full Court Press. Dave, thanks for your time tonight.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into the matchup for tomorrow, I think we have to discuss how the last game ended. The last battle that Ridgeline had. It was a great battle with the Bear River Bears. It was a back-and-forth game. And controversy at the end. How did you see how that game ended?
Well, let's back up a hair. It should never have been to that point. I mean, that's I think you talked to a lot of the maybe Ridgeline fans. There were 4 plays, big plays Bear River had total the whole game, and they kind of came to be that was the main difference of the thing. Look at this number. Just check out this. Of the 202 yards that Bear River had on the ground, 150, I think it was low 152, something like that, came on 2 plays. 2 plays, and those both went for touchdowns. So, you got to mop those things up. But from my perspective, I was up in the box, obviously, and I was on the far side of the box. So I had, I don't know. But it was kind of a Hail Mary type pass. The kid caught it. The ref was standing right there. I mean, right there. It was gutsy of him to make what all of us on the Ridgeline side perceived as the right call, but because he's out there at Bear River, homecoming, the whole town there, and he made the call, but the guy was standing right next to it. So I don't know. I kind of go back to the fact that it should never even have been that close. When Bear River cut that thing to 7. I looked at Nick Zollinger. I'm like, this is not good. Something crazy could happen here. And sure enough, they get down there. Can you imagine had they called that a touchdown and let's say Bear River decides to go for 2 and get it, and Ridgeline's standing there going, what just happened? We were up 14 5 minutes ago. But they got out of there, and quite honestly, I think that they are a better team right now. I'm sure Bear River faithful would say that's not the case, but from what I saw on both sides, I think that Ridgeline is a better team right now.
So Chris Wise, head coach of the Bear River Bears, he has a I guess they do a community and coaches show on 104.9 The Ranch over in Box Elder County on Mondays.
What'd he say?
Here,
I didn't hear it.
Here, I'll play it for you. He had 2 comments about the way that game ended. Here's the first of the 2 comments.
The head official gave me a call and said that was just a blown play, blown call. So my whole thing was, and not sour grapes because we're moving on, but the thing that we're really trying to teach our boys from that is never again leave doubt.
So he says he got a call from a head official saying that it was a blown call. And then he had one other comment saying that the officials were out of position, and that's why it took them so long to make an official call. Here's what he had to say about that.
Josh put it right where it needed to be. He kept his feet and had the wherewithal. That's what is amazing about these kids is the body control. He had the wherewithal to have the ball, hold the ball, and he was still up on his feet and knocked over the pylon and had the ball extended. And as I said, they were out of position and just missed the call. They're human too.
See, then I missed that because from what I could tell from where I was, again, my angle wasn't good at all. It looked to me like that sideline ref was right there, but apparently he wasn't.
Well, I mean,
but he's right though. Don't leave it up to stuff like that.
Yes, that's
really when
true.
it comes down to it, and credit the Payne kid. He had been hurt a game or 2, and he came in and he played. Personally, I didn't think he threw a great ball. It was kind of up there all the time, and I kept thinking, geez, somebody go pick that thing off. But they fought and they battled. But the bottom line is they had a couple huge plays, but other than that, Ridgeline really did a good job holding them to – I have my stats here right in front of me. The Jones kid, who was, by the way, he's a tough kid. They had him with 110 yards rushing. 84 of them were on one play. 84 of the 110. The rest of the whole evening, Ridgeline held him in check. The UD kid had a 62-yard touchdown. These are unofficial because I'm trying my best from the box. But you figure that's about almost 150 yards of their 202 yards on the ground that came in one play or 2 plays. So throw those 2 plays out, which you can't. It's a whole different ball game, just a whole different ball game. But he's right. I mean, you don't leave it up to one thing. And credit Bear River, they fought, man. They fought the whole step of the way.
Let's go ahead and talk Ridgeline because that's where the focus is here. As you are the play-by-play voice for the Ridgeline Riverhawks, Dave, great to have you on our show. Thanks for doing so. This Thursday night's game, can you remember a game this big that you've called, and when was that, and who was it?
Great question. Probably when I called the Logan State Championship a handful of years back. Obviously, that was a really big game for the Grizzlies. For me, at Ridgeline, no. This feels like about as big as it's gotten. I don't know if you guys remember last year when we had some similar conversations. I told you how young that team was and how they're coming, and they're going to be really tough and they're going to be hard to beat. We're starting to see that, and the core of this team is a heavy group of them are still juniors, but take nothing away. This senior class is going to be hard to replace, even with how good of a junior class they have with guys like Miles Eck and Jaden Harris and Evan Webb and Carter Murdoch and Nate Nixon and Charlie Nelson. These are all big parts of this team, and they're seniors and they're hungry, and they have a really good group of juniors with them. It's a really, really good team, but they are going up against a team or even a program, you should say, in Skyview that has been borderline dominant over the last 3 or 4 years at least. And, the interesting dynamic to this whole thing is the coaching staffs who have essentially worked together at both schools over the last few years. They know each other well. They're all probably thinking about this and maybe even overthinking about this on how they're going to counteract what the other school likes or what the other coach likes to do. It's really going to come down to execution and which of these kids step up, because these coaches are going to they might even try to overthink the thing.
So when you look at the Skyview team, 22 out of 23 games they've won. I mean, it's just been an absolute train wreck for anybody who's gotten into their way. And last year, 38-0 winners over Ridgeline. What if there is a weakness? If there is a weakness in this Skyview team, where is it that Ridgeline can take advantage of them?
Boy, that's a question to ask coaches that have been digging all over in the video and the film, because I haven't seen them. I haven't seen Skyview. You know, I can tell you that Ridgeline is super balanced. They have weapons all over the offensive side, and if you're going to try to take one guy away, there's 3 or 4 other guys that'll hurt you. From the quarterback to the wide receivers to the running backs, they have weapons everywhere, and I think that's one of the biggest strengths for this team is Coach Cox, Coach Livingston have all those weapons, and you just pick your poison. You know, if you're going to double team one guy, then somebody else is going to hurt you. So, but I don't know the answer, AJ, to that. Ajay, is where is the weakness in Skyview? I don't know. I really don't know.
Well,
I wish I did.
Not a lot of time left here, but from your perspective and what you've seen Ridgeline and how they've kind of progressed through the season, how would you classify where they are now compared to where they began this year?
A lot of people don't realize that they made a big change on the defensive coaching staff after that first game. There were some disagreements on how things should be going, and so the defensive coordinator that was there is now not after that first game. And essentially what's happened is Coach Cox has become the defensive coordinator. And normally he's a brilliant offensive mind, but he's left a lot of that to Coach Jeremy Livingston, who's also a really, really impressive offensive mind. But I think Coach Cox, in his quarterback mind, likes the offensive side, but he's really grabbed onto this defensive scheme that he's put out there and simplified it to some extent over what it was going in the weeks before that first game against Pineview. And if you remember, they gave up quite a few points to Pineview in that first game. 38. But then since then, they only gave up 7 to Farmington, 7 to Woods Cross, and then the 27 last week to Bear River. So defensively, they're becoming much better, and like I said, offensively, they have weapons all over the place. The thing about Skyview, though, is they're big, and they're fast, and they're well coached, and you know, we've been over the last couple of weeks. I have friends out there, and we've been kind of chit-chatting back and forth, saying there's a big one coming. There's a big one coming. And, you know, had Ridgeline lost last week or had Skyview stumbled over the last couple of weeks anywhere, maybe it wouldn't feel like this, but we all kind of saw it coming. And you got a Thursday night on K-Jazz. It's going to be rocking. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Dave, we only got about a minute to go. For folks that want to tune into this game.
Which will be me, by the way.
Yes. Remind people how they can find it on Thursday night.
104.5 on the FM side, but I still believe it's easiest just to hop on your smartphone and go to CashValleyDaily.com, click on the sports section, and then you should be able to navigate really easily to I think it says high school sports schedule or high school football schedule. Once you click on that, you can scroll down. You can just click on any school you want to listen to, and the broadcast will be right there. We'll be broadcasting at Ridgeline, so I'll make the call for not only the Ridgeline group, but also our friends out in Skyview will make the call for them as well, and we'll try to stay unbiased as possible through the whole thing. I got to let Nick know, though. but at the same time, our buddy John Newbold, he's not.
He's a homer.
There's no getting around that.
Very well aware of that. Hey, Dave, thanks for your time. You're
and
one of the best.
Self-proclaimed. He'll freely admit it.
No problem, fellas.
All right, thanks, Dave. Look forward to hearing your broadcast tomorrow night.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Dave Simmons, Nick Zollinger.
Dude, he is so good.
They have a lot of fun together.
Said it numerous times, and I continue to say it.
Those are great broadcasts.
I can't wait to be at home eating a pizza, listening to that game.
And you'll hear it not only on 104.5 FM, but also here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan, or streaming online, 1069thefan.com. Next hour, it's going to be heavy on the NBA.
Oh, jeez.
We got some big, crazy games last night. The All-NBA teams have been released. A lot of NBA coaching vacancies. Which places look like they may be the most appealing and or the least? We'll talk about that in debate. Next hour, stick around.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. The Western Conference Finals was supposed to be the battle for Los Angeles. Well, the Lakers held up their end of the bargain, and we expected the Clippers to do the same, but the Denver Nuggets had a different idea. They came back from a 3-1 deficit last night for the second straight time this postseason to shock the Clippers and advance. Game 7 came down to the stars, those who showed and those who did not. Jamal Murray scored 40 for Denver. The Joker was brilliant with a triple-double. Meanwhile, Kawhi and Paul George struggled in the second half for Los Angeles. The Clippers seemed to act like they could turn it on when they needed to. Boy, that's a dangerous way to play when you run into a team like Denver. It's a disappointing end for a franchise that expected to go all the way after adding Leonard and George. Maybe some people are disappointed we won't see that Clipper-Laker matchup, but the Nuggets shouldn't be taken lightly, and hopefully they'll be part of another thrilling series, this time with the trip to the NBA Finals on the line. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.